Agility space anyway. So the sprint start. Right. So there's many surveys out there, and this is only a subset of them. And what I really pulled out and over the next couple of slides is what is it that people want? You know, what have they been searching for? And you can see here the highlighted words that people are looking for flexibility, and they prefer a hybrid working model. Some people might not be sure what exactly that is, but you can see that there is that flexible remote is something people want to stay around, and they want flexibility in the hours and location. So if we move on to the next slide, what I want to show you is what's the impact of that. So first of all, 2 years of a pandemic, people are starting to rethink, their identity, what Stephen alluded to earlier, who do I identify myself as a 9-to-5 worker or not? And so there is this, we've been talking about the great resignation or the great shift or the great something. There's lots of trends that are being researched. But what you can see here that at least, between 40 and 50% or even higher are considering career transitions, changing and rethinking the type of job they want, because now they have the opportunity to do that. So there is really a real shift in the way people believe they want to work. It's like when the 5 days a week work week was introduced 100 or so years ago. We have now another really global shift in how people rethink work and how they approach work and living. It's actually really exciting time to be in right now.
It is, and I think it's a good point you alluded to there, that potentially this is one of those big change points in
Yes.
society and humanity. We seem to think that what we grew up with in the 70s and 80s and 90s and 2000s, that was the norm. But there was a period before the Industrial Revolution, and even kind of going up into the late early 1900s, where that really wasn't the norm. And
that's right.
This 9-to-5 office type thing, that was brought in, and quite quickly that became the norm. But maybe this is going to do the same as well. Maybe we're living through one of those moments that's just as epoch changing as the ones that we've been through before, which is, as somebody said before, scary, but it's also it's a bit awesome as well. We're here going, wow, what's going to happen? We're at one of these change points in histories, and we're actually living through it, which is fascinating.
It is.
Yes,
what we're going is more complex. Isn't it complex enough already? So the smart companies of the world going, well, where is everyone sitting? So this was a webinar that I attended with Deloitte, and they looked at, well, what are the trends of companies and how they're choosing to work, and so there is some that are virtual first or remaining, and some companies saying, no, actually we want to stay on site. And you can see there's shifts with those arrows that they've tried something and then they're moving to hybrid, and maybe they're moving back. So I'm very curious to see how this would look in a few years, or in a year's time, or even in 6 months. And you can see there's some organizations, as I mentioned, Automatic and GitLab and Slack, they are just 100% virtual, and sometimes are native virtual as well. So they've never actually had a physical office. So this is in their DNA and how they work, versus others are trying to redefine themselves and say, well, how do we adapt, and what model really works for our organization, for our business model. So you will expect to see some shifts back and forth, I think, over the years until this is settling. But yeah, this is a good view of this.
And you can see, it's not, again, this isn't per sector. It's not all the techs are just in the virtual and the virtual first. You've got some big players in there. You've got Deutsche Bank and Morgan Stanley and Deloitte and stuff. You've got some serious players that are looking at, well, this is a change in the way that we work. And the big hero campuses that they would have with the big head office, maybe that's not going to be the norm for organizations way outside of the tech sector as well.
And what's interesting, and then if you keep in mind, for those of you that look at the Atlassian with where it says hybrid, that has changed. So we'll explain a little bit later. So we already had this. This is outdated, I would say. And it's only been a few months.
And it's only a couple of months, and that's the thing. This is moving so quickly.
Yes.